if you're running lead gen campaigns and those leads are not picking up the phone, they're not buying, or they're just not responding at all, or they didn't even remember filling out the form, I got great news for you. Meta just dropped the biggest update to instant forms in years with 2 new features that are going to fix those lead quality issues that have been fucking your ads for years. I'm George Mezes, and my team and I has personally generated close to 45,000 leads this year to date over multiple different industries, from coaching agencies to info products. We've managed lead gen campaigns spending anywhere from $1,000 a month to $100K per month, so we've seen all sorts of lead quality issues you can imagine. Now, let me show you how to handle these issues with the new updates. So, I mean, one of our clients' ad account, who is a chiropractor, and as you can see, he's spending around, $5,500 to $6,000 a month in the last 30 days on lead gen campaigns, and they've generated something along the lines of those, like 200 or 325-ish, 26 leads, and with like an average of 16, 15 average cost per lead. Now, when it comes to the actual instant forms, let me just open one of the campaigns up and go into the lead form. So you can see we're using a really simple lead form campaign with like a really offer-driven headline, if you will, which is book a consult to learn more how to fix your posture today, essentially. So again, we have the first question, which is, do you have bad posture? Yes, no, not sure. Again, this is like a disqualifying question with conditional logic. We have the second question, do you feel any pain or discomfort? If so, where? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how severe the pain is. Fourth question, fifth question, sixth question, seventh question, and that's it. Contact information. Now, when it comes to how many questions you want to use in a form, it really all comes down to how much friction you want to introduce. So all that to say, the more friction you introduce, the less leads you're going to have, so the less volume you're going to have, and the more CPR that you're going to experience, because obviously the more friction you add, the less people are going to fill out the form, if that makes sense. Now, obviously, what Alex Hormozy says all the time as well is that we first create flow and then we add friction. But something that is super, super important to mention here is that the flow still need to be qualified, because again, if your leads are not picking up the phone or they don't even remember filling out the form, then that flow is just worthless. So first, we need to make sure that we're creating flow in a sense that we're always bringing in somewhat qualified leads that are like, first of all, can pick up the phone and they're somewhat financially qualified, if that makes sense. So whether you're, a SaaS business, whether you're a local business, whatever it is, you have to have those qualification questions in the form to make sure that you're actually filtering for those people that are your ideal customers, if that makes sense. So for example, for a chiropractor, it would be necessary to have this question, like, do you have bad posture, for example, or do you have pain at all, right? Because if they don't, then we cannot provide value, we cannot alleviate pain, and it's just that we cannot help that, and that's it. So I want to touch on, why do we actually use instant forms for local businesses rather than a landing page? Because again, a landing page is already a friction. You're leading the user to a separate landing page, a separate platform to, again, opt in, right? So it's like unnecessary friction for local businesses specifically. And also we've seen like more volume with instant forms on Meta, really. And it's really just like a matter of a volume game and a quality game as well. And we've just seen really good results with instant forms, so we want to stick with that. Now, also there's incentives that don't align with the platform. So if you think about this, the platform's incentive is to keep the user on the platform, because again, if Facebook makes money if they can show you more ads, because that's how they make money. Obviously, as you spend your ad spend as an advertiser, they can spend that to more people if they spend more time on the platform as well, right? So they can show more ads to the user. Now, if you're leading the user off the platform to a separate landing page, well, your incentives don't align with Facebook. So obviously Facebook's going to drive up costs, so cost per milli, for example, because again, their incentive is to keep the user on the platform. So if you're leading users off the platform, Facebook has to have something in it, right? So they're going to charge you more. So hence why also it doesn't really make sense to use outside platforms for local businesses. Now, let's actually get into how to solve those lead issues. So let me actually go ahead and duplicate this specific form. So there you go. It's already prompting us to do that. So when I come into form type, you can see that we have this option to require leads to verify their phone number with one-time passcode. So this you can find under the higher intent. So even if you don't have higher intent, if I just go to the end of the form, we now have this like review information where they have to review their personal info that they gave, and they can slide to submit. So it's like an extra step, which is literally no friction. It's literally just a slide. But the problem is no one checks their info. So it's like, some people are opting in for, a free, like a free ebook or whatever it is, just obviously in a social mindset, hopping from one post to another, and they don't tend to check their personal info. So the issue with that is that, for example, on the contact form, People give their name, they give their last name, email, and a phone number. And the phone number is most often than not populated from years ago. And as we know, that phone number that, you maybe put into your Facebook account when you created it in 2006 or whatever, that phone number is not your phone number anymore. It has a really likely chance. So when people are not picking up the phone, or they're saying like, I don't remember filling out the form, for sure they don't remember it because that was someone else, or that's someone else's phone number that you're calling right now, right? So, and obviously, phone number is like the biggest leverage here. No one's going to check their email. So obviously, the phone number is that your setter or yourself is going to work with, obviously, when contacting these leads. So we need to make sure that they're actually giving the right phone number. Now, how do we do that? That's the first update that Meta rolled out, which is require leads to verify their phone number with one-time passcode. And what it does is, you can see it already jumped on the right side of the screen. If I tick this off, it goes back. But if I tick it or check it, it goes to this page, which is verifying the actual phone number, and it sends a code. It's really good. And also, the majority of the users are going to be obviously browsing Facebook on the phone, and more importantly, iPhone. And the reason why that's important is because iPhone has this feature where if there's a code sent to their iMessage or like SMS, it pops up right at the bottom of the screen. So they can just literally click that button and it copy pastes the code automatically. So it's literally no friction. And so what this does is essentially makes sure that the prospect is actually giving us a valid phone number, and that they're obviously receiving that code to the set phone number that they give in the context field. And if that contact field was populated from years ago, they're going to be able to change that. Now, again, if they didn't get a code, they're going to resend and see if it actually arrives. If it doesn't arrive, then, they can have the sense that they actually need to add another phone number because it's from years ago. So it's really, really good. And again, it's like little to no friction, because if you think about it, when it comes to, how qualified a lead is or how not qualified a lead is, if someone goes through like, 9 questions or like 7 questions, I think this form is, and they're just really giving the last steps of the form, it's like that prospect is engaged. That prospect is somewhat marketing qualified already. So they're just not going to jump off because they have to verify their phone number. They came for value here. Like, they're, especially with like chiropractors, these people are in physical pain. So it's like they want to solve that, and just verifying their phone number is not going to be the gate that is like, gatekeeping them from that. So obviously they're going to do that. Now, when it comes to how many questions you should add to the form, again, first we're creating flow. So I really advise you to add no more than like, 2 to 3 questions that are like actually qualification questions, in a sense that those are necessary for you to know if those leads are going to be a good fit for your program or not, or your product or not. But once you created flow and you have an idea and also trained Meta on the audience that you want to target, then obviously you can add more questions. Now, I really don't recommend adding more than like 3 to 5, very at max 7. So as you can see, some of these questions are like already sales questions, if that makes sense. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how severe is your pain? This is not something that you would normally put into a form. This is something that you would actually ask on the phone, or ask in a triage call or a sales call, right? Again, how is this affecting your daily issue or day-to-day life, right? So it's like, again, it's more like a sales question, not like a marketing qualification form question, if that makes sense. So why we're doing this is that because the client specifically asked us to do this, so that he has like a better understanding before the call. And so if someone is actually filling out a form like this, with qualification questions like, are you ready to start the treatment now? Then we for sure know that the prospect is actually committed or not to making the change. And also with chiropractors, there's a lot of, back and forth with like whether they can use insurance or not. So it's just make sure that we are fully prepared for talking to that said prospect over the phone. So hence why we're using it. Now, that's the actual first feature that is really good, and I really advise you to do that, because it's going to make sure that the prospects know that they fill out the form, and if they give a good phone number, so the client literally cannot tell us that, hey, this is a bad lead, because they just not picking up, and just try calling them more, right? We have a really, really aggressive lead nurturing process when it comes to dialing leads. So that's on the client, and obviously we're going to teach the client on how to do that, but we want to make sure that from a marketing perspective, leads are qualified, that they have good phone numbers, they're a good fit when it comes to the qualification terms, and that's that. Now, the second thing that actually Meta rolled out, the second feature, and let me just come to the ending page, is this one: connect with leads in a messenger. This is really, really good, because again, we can prompt them to start a conversation on a messenger. So after a lead submits, I'm just going to read this with you. submits your instant form and agrees to receive messages from your business, a chat that includes their contact information will start on Messenger or Instagram. So why is this really good? Because again, the biggest thing that people don't realize is that the biggest leverage lies in time to lead. So that's super crazy, because I just heard a story from Alex Ramosi that I think it was one of his friends that ran a business, and they hire like an old lady, and her only sole job was to call leads within a minute of opting in. And they increased like close rate and like revenue, right, like 50% or something like that. Let's say some crazy numbers. I don't want to talk like false numbers, but something crazy like that. And so the biggest leverage you're going to have is time to leads. So essentially, if your leads are opting in, like this is what we all always advise our clients to do, is if you cannot do 5 to 10 minutes after opt-in, just call them within half an hour, because again, the lead is the warmest at that time. They're still relevant, they're still engaged, and they're still in the most pain when they're filling out the form. Obviously, you want to catch them at that mentality, you want to catch them at that specific phase when they're actually experiencing most of the pain, obviously, hence why they're filling out the form. So the sooner you can call them, the better time you're going to have them actually closing them on the call, whether it's for a first consult, whether it's for actual sales calls. So just bear in mind that's that. And when you're actually thinking or checking this box, it gives the chance to the prospect or the lead to actually start a conversation on Meta. So your SDRs and your BDRs are going to have a much easier time actually connecting with this lead like instantly on Messenger or on Instagram before they would call them up. And obviously you can like rule out like, automated messages with Go High Level and with ManyChat as well on Instagram or Messenger. But I would really advise you to manually go into the chat and just have like this conversation started with them, so they're actually keeping this loop of being engaged, if that makes sense. Because again, if you're talking with them on Messenger actively before you would be able to call them up, then again, it's just like a matter of keeping them engaged, and so you don't lose relevancy. So these are the two biggest updates, guys. Happy hunting with this. I really assure you that these are going to be solving the biggest issues that you've been facing for all these years. If you want my team and I to take a look at your lead gen campaigns, or even potentially help you running those lead gen campaigns from launching all the way to closing the sale, check out the first link in the description below. I'm sure you will find great value. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day.